There are people in the world with various habits. Some are good habits and some are bad habits. It can also be said that it's part of their individuality. Among them, there is a habit of stealing that is unbelievable. What's even more frightening is that there are people who seem to have left behind the feeling of guilt. Aaliyah was exactly like that. Because Aaliyah had a habit of stealing, it led to a major crisis that put her life in danger. My name is Bella, just an ordinary housewife you could find anywhere. I live with my elementary school-aged son and husband. Cooking is one of my hobbies. However, I may have a slightly unconventional way of thinking from other people's perspectives. So I've been enjoying it secretly alone, but I never imagined it would lead to something like that. One day, there was an occasion where my mom friends gathered at my house. Aaliyah and Cameron came over. Both of them had been to each other's house before, as their homes were right around the corner. But neither of them had ever been to my house.
Bella, your home is gorgeous. It's really different when your husband works for a top-tier company.
That's not true, it's just normal. Since Aaliyah found out where my husband works, she's been getting on my nerves by making comments like this.
Your kitchen is also so clean and spacious. It's nice.
Aaliyah abruptly opened the fridge and peeked inside. I was so surprised by her bold action that I was at a loss for words.
As expected, everything you're eating seems to be good. Oh, I want to try this. This one is expensive, right? Hey, Bella, I want to try making something with this.
Hey, Aaliyah, isn't it rude to suddenly look inside someone else's fridge like that? Cameron took over and reprimanded her.
Oh, come on. It's okay. I envy you because you have all these fancy foods, unlike us. Oh, I want to try this too.
But there are the dishes that Belle is serving, right?
Yeah, but this looks more high-end, doesn't it? It's not fair that those who earn more get to eat better food. God is so unfair. And even though they eat good food themselves, Bella is surprisingly stingy with us, huh?
I didn't mean it that way, but if you have complaints, you don't have to eat it. I answered with a bit of irritation, and Aaliyah told me to get in a good mood.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't my intention.
Then, what do you mean?
Of course, I'm going to enjoy this too, you know. I just thought that since we're at it, I want to try some high-quality ingredients.
Cameron was looking at her with a face of utter disbelief. I didn't say anything more either. Aaliyah ate more than half of the dishes I had served, despite complaining earlier.
People who always eat good food have it good, don't they? I'm so envious that they can eat such delicious food every day.
I couldn't say anything more. This is what I meant. I should have kicked her out at that time. After finishing her meal, Aaliyah began to wander around the house.
Oh, this must be the bathroom, right? Wow, it's spacious and clean. It's nice.
Hey, Aaliyah?
Is the washroom this way?
Aaliyah, it's not appropriate to go around someone else's home like that. It's rude. As I thanked Cameron for admonishing Aaliyah, I gently scolded her. We're just an ordinary family, Aaliyah, and it's uncomfortable to be stared at like that.
It's just looking. What's wrong with that? Besides, you're living a much better life than us. It's not fair.
I realized that the conversation wasn't getting through to her.
My husband is a worthless man and I have to go to work to make ends meet. I would love to be a stay-at-home mom like you, Bella, and be able to live a luxurious life.
Afterwards, Aaliyah continued to sneak peeks around the house and was reprimanded by Cameron and me. But she didn't seem to care at all. After the two of them left, I was exhausted and worn out. We ended up eating out that day since I was too tired to cook. That's why I didn't notice anything strange. The day after Aaliyah and Cameron came over to play, I stood in the kitchen thinking about making some of my favorite dishes. And that's when I noticed. Wait, where did all my sauces go? Did I move them somewhere else? I looked all over but couldn't find any of my secret sauces. This is terrible if they're missing. They're my personal favorites and my husband wouldn't have touched them. I don't think so, but just in case, I decided to contact Aaliyah and Cameron. I have some condiments missing that I left in the kitchen. Did you bring them home by mistake or something? I'm sorry to ask you this, but I just want to make sure. I checked, but it doesn't seem to be with me. It's worrying, right? I don't want to say this, but isn't Aaliyah acting a bit suspicious? I'm sorry to say that I also thought so, but she wouldn't steal some seasoning, right? But her jealousy was abnormal. I'll talk to Aaliyah and apologize for causing her any worries. My conversation with Cameron went like this, but as for Aaliyah...
Are you suspecting me, Bella? It's just some seasoning, you know? Gross. That's such a terrible feeling.
It's not about stealing, just checking if you mistakenly took it home.
Basically, you're accusing me of stealing and over some seasoning. I heard rich people are surprisingly stingy. And it's true, isn't it? Bella, you're so uptight. Just so you know, I don't know anything. Anyway, with all the money you have, I wouldn't be bothered even if I lost a little something.
I'm sorry if it's just a misunderstanding, but it's actually missing. Even if it accidentally got mixed up in your things, please don't use it under any circumstances.
I already told you it's not here. And what do you mean by don't use it? Are you really that stingy? Even with spices?
No, it's not about that.
Wow, if you're making such a big deal out of it, it must be some super expensive spice, huh?
It's not like that.
No, it must be like that. Rich people use amazing seasonings, don't they? I can't imitate that at my place.
It's not about that. Anyway, even if you have it, please don't use it.
You're so persistent. I don't have it, okay?
I wish I had said it right at the time. Aaliyah looks suspicious no matter how you look at her. The incident happened after this. It happened a few hours after I talked to Aaliyah on the phone.
Ah! Help!
Right after I heard a woman screaming, I heard the sound of an ambulance siren. I had a bad feeling about this. I rushed outside and saw an ambulance parked in front of Aaliyah's house. Aaliyah was being taken out of her house on a stretcher. Her face was pale and she was shaking uncontrollably. She was almost unconscious.
Aaliyah, can you hear me?
The paramedics were calling out to Aaliyah multiple times. Oh no, this is serious.
Please explain the situation.
My wife was eating alone and suddenly started feeling unwell.
The food tasted really strange. I don't even know what it was. Does your wife have any allergies?
I've never heard of her having anything like that. As Aaliyah's panicked husband was explaining the situation to the paramedics, his eyes met mine. Suddenly, he gave me a stern look and started walking towards me.
Bella, what is going on here?
Huh? What do you mean?
My wife was cooking using the seasoning you gave her, and then suddenly her condition changed. I tasted it a little bit, and what the hell was that? It tasted terrible. My mouth is still numb.
Well, that's...
Right now, the priority is to take her to the hospital. Please, hurry. Bella, please come too. Explain it properly.
I ended up getting on the ambulance by chance. Oh, it's become troublesome.
I can't believe someone would give something like that to another person.
Aaliyah's husband was mumbling and Aaliyah would occasionally moan.
Aaliyah, get a grip.
He was desperately trying to get her attention. When we arrived at the hospital, Aaliyah went into the treatment room. Aaliyah's husband, with a bright red face and anger in his voice,
Depending on the situation, we may call the police. Please give us a proper explanation,
he said while accompanying Aaliyah. This is troublesome. How should I explain? An hour later, I found myself talking to Aaliyah's husband in the hospital room where Aaliyah was lying. Aaliyah appeared calm while receiving an IV drip, as she was diagnosed with a mild case of food poisoning.
Bella, I'm asking you again, what the hell is going on? Fortunately, it wasn't life-threatening, but it's still a big problem.
I just want to make sure. Did Aaliyah really say that she received seasoning from me?
Yes, she did. What's wrong? Are you trying to deny it?
No, that's not the case. It's just that...
What is it? Please be clear.
I want to call the police and talk to them. Also, there's something I want to check at Aaliyah's house.
To call the police yourself, there must be something suspicious going on. Alright. I don't know what you want to confirm, but since Aaliyah has calmed down, let's go back home for now.
With Aaliyah's frustrated husband, I took a taxi back to Aaliyah's house. Which seasoning did Aaliyah use?
I think everything here is all there is.
Oh, I see.
You gave them to her, didn't you? Why are you checking now? This smells terrible. What is this? Do you have a grudge against Aaliyah?
This is death sauce. There's also noni juice.
I'm not sure what that is.
Death sauce is very spicy and noni juice is absurdly bitter. They're so strong that they're used as a punishment in games. It's something most people don't eat.
Why did you give that to my wife?
Just then, the police arrived at Aaliyah's house.
This person made my wife eat terrible food. Is this a crime?
Please calm down. That seasoning was something Aaliyah took from my house without permission.
What?
That seasoning that Aaliyah stole was a very stimulating substance.
Are you saying that Aaliyah stole it? What a baseless accusation.
I understand that it's hard to believe, but that seasoning was missing from my house on the day Aaliyah came to visit. I told Aaliyah not to use it under any circumstances. Here, I told him about Aaliyah's behavior that day in our phone conversation. I kept quiet about her lamentations about his lack of worthiness.
So, my wife stole the seasoning from your house and thought they were luxury items?
That's right. I myself enjoy such stimulating sauces as a personal hobby. It was very embarrassing to talk about such things in front of the police. Oh, sorry, can I make a call to my house? I called my husband at home and quickly explained the situation, asking for his confirmation. Oh, I see, that's not all. I just checked, but it seems that some of the cosmetics I had in stock in the bathroom are missing.
What?
I didn't notice because they weren't something I needed to use immediately. They were on the bathroom shelf. I'm sorry, but could you search the house? As the police searched the house, I waited nervously. My heart sank when they found the cosmetics that had disappeared from my home. Moreover, they found my ring from what appeared to be my valuable item box. It was a ring with my name engraved on it, so there was no need to confirm it. I stored it in the bedroom, so I guess someone sneaked in without me noticing?
Why? Why would she?
Aaliyah's husband was stunned and seemed unable to accept the reality. I proceeded to work with the police in a businesslike manner. Oh, there's also a ring with Cameron's name on it. This seems to be another crime, I said while Aaliyah's husband just hung his head.
What the hell am I supposed to do?
Just then, we received a call from the hospital that Aaliyah had woken up.
Bella, I'm sorry to bother you, but can you come with me again?
Aaliyah's husband had somehow managed to switch his emotions, but his face was now contorted with anger compared to earlier. In the taxi, Aaliyah's husband was making a phone call somewhere. We arrived at the hospital and first Aaliyah's husband went into the room. I could hear Aaliyah screaming from inside.
I was fooled by Bella. This is harassment. I'll sue.
Bella, please come in.
Huh? Bella? Why?
I'm terribly sorry.
Aaliyah's husband apologized profusely.
Hey, what do you mean? I'm the victim, right?
Screw you. You're the worst person I've ever met. What you did is a crime.
Bella, what did you tell my husband?
That you stole seasoning from my house.
Stole? That sounds bad. I just borrowed it. You did such a dirty thing, keeping all the fine food for yourself. It's your fault for being stingy, Bella. I mean, there was so much that I couldn't use at all, so I used some for myself.
Suddenly, Aaliyah came up with a strange theory, and both Aaliyah's husband and I were speechless.
And that weird taste? What was that? You made it seem like it was some fancy ingredient. I was fooled. How terrible! Bella's the one at fault. She used her wealth as an excuse to be snide.
Enough already. It's terrifying that I'm married to a criminal like you.
A criminal? That's an exaggeration. It's just some seasoning.
Not just some seasoning, she's also been stealing my cosmetics and rings. And Cameron's ring too.
What? You rummaged through someone else's house without permission?
No, don't say that. We had the police come, so don't worry.
The police? You're just messing around.
You're the one messing around. We're getting a divorce.
Huh? Why a divorce? Why did it come to that?
There's no way I can live with a criminal like you. You lie and act like you know nothing. I don't trust you. Of course, I'll take custody of our son. It's bad for his education to be with you.
Wait a minute. Why all of a sudden?
At that moment, the sound of heavy footsteps running towards us grew louder and louder until the hospital room door burst open with great force.
Dad, why are you here?
What has this useless daughter of mine done now? I'm sorry for the sudden intrusion. No, thank you for letting me know. I'm terribly sorry about my daughter. No, there's someone who's suffered more than I have.
Aaliyah's father turned towards me and also apologized profusely.
I sincerely apologize for everything.
This is the second apology of the day. It's not often in life that you get to see such a profuse apology.
This girl has always been a sly one, but I never imagined she would stoop to stealing someone else's property. Shame on you!
Aaliyah trembled and seemed to be crying.
It's Bella's fault.
Are you still saying that?
But it's your fault because you don't make enough money. I want to live a glamorous life.
Stop talking nonsense! You live off us and yet behave like this.
I was just standing there like a wallflower, but Aaliyah's father's anger was intense, and I was also scared.
I'm thinking of divorcing Aaliyah. Oh, of course, I'm truly sorry. I'll take responsibility and discipline her properly.
What? You mean I have to go back to my parents' house? No way. It's so rural. My standard of living will drop compared to what it is now.
You keep talking about your standard of living and being glamorous, but it doesn't suit a lowlife like you. That's right!
Before going back to your parents' house, you'll be in the care of the police, though.
Shut up! It's all your fault.
Aaliyah was about to come towards me, but her father glared at her, and her husband stopped her.
Are you only thinking about yourself? You didn't even apologize to Bella. You're beyond help. Apologize with all your heart.
I'm sorry. See? I apologized, so can we not get divorced?
Enough mocking people. I can't do this with you.
No, I don't want a divorce.
After apologizing to the people who had gathered around the room, I left the hospital. After I left, even louder shouting was heard. The nurses rushed into the room in a panic. Let's talk about what happened to Aaliyah after that. According to the police investigation, it was discovered that Aaliyah had been stealing quite a bit. Aaliyah's past crimes keep coming to light, and she doesn't seem to know what she's stolen from whom. When questioned by those who knew her, Aaliyah denied the accusations, but it turned out that many people who knew her had reported missing items. The police were apparently stumped by the sheer number of victims, so it seems that Aaliyah will not be released anytime soon. Of course, Aaliyah and her husband divorced. Aaliyah cried and resisted, but her ex-husband was determined. It's not surprising. It seems that Dennis was granted custody of the children. Dennis told me when he came to visit that he lives near his parents' house, so he is able to continue working and raising his child with their help. Both Dennis and Aaliyah's father have apologized many times. I heard that they have been visiting the victims and apologizing for what Aaliyah did. Apparently, everyone is sympathetic because both of them are also victims in a sense. Of course, everyone is only angry at Aaliyah. After being under police custody, it seems that Aaliyah will have a hard time compensating the victims. Aaliyah's father has found her a job, and all of her salary will go towards paying off the damages. Aaliyah has never worked for more than a short part-time job before, and is scared of being made to work from morning till night. She doesn't want to leave the police. Well, apparently even the police scolded her harshly and she cries every day. My secret hobby that I was enjoying ended up being discovered by my family, but my husband just laughed it off. I think the fact that I kept it under tight control so that my son wouldn't eat it by mistake made it look like a luxury item. Aaliyah stole what she thought must be a luxury item. She seemed to have misunderstood me on the phone. To comfort me, my husband will be taking me to a rare seasoning shop, which is lucky for me. I was reminded, though, not to include it in my husband and son's meal by mistake. So, what shall we cook today? Well, I had a rather unusual hobby that turned out to be a disaster this time. In a way, it can also be said that Aaliyah was a disaster. Stealing is absolutely not acceptable. I can only hope that this exciting experience will help Aaliyah reform. Well, it might be difficult because she's the kind of person who easily believes that things are luxury items and steals them.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, "I'm moving to the sales department soon." If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. "Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it." On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. "Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived." I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. "They look good." "What are you talking about?" "These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one?" As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. "Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay?" I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. "Yes, I'm inviting my father." "That's great. I might invite my parents too." I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.